Okay, well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this virtual event run by staff at Newcastle University for our international and European offer holders. We hope you've come online to find out more information in the run-up to your course starting in September. And we hope that the presentation we're going to give you this afternoon, followed by the questions that you can type in and ask us either during or after the presentation, will answer everything that you need to know about preparing to come to Newcastle in September. Okay, so I'll would like to start the presentation now. I'll introduce you to two of my colleagues who are with me here today. I can't see the presentation at the moment. We're just waiting for the presentation. Oh, there we go, to come up on the screen. Okay, so if you can see three of us sitting in front of you. On my left, I have my colleague Alex Morgan, who is our International Student Integration Officer, who's going to talk to you a little bit today about how you can best prepare for your arrival and then what to do once you arrive in Newcastle. And on my right, I have my colleague Monica Nielsen, who's working with us now at the university, but she used to be a postgraduate student studying on our marketing master's programme. So she will be telling you a little bit about some of her experiences as a student at Newcastle. So I'll begin this presentation just by checking that you know where you're actually coming to in the United Kingdom. So we're Newcastle University, based in the city of Newcastle upon Tyne, in the northeast of England. We're just about 20 minutes away from the coast, so we have lots of lovely sandy beaches. In the winter it can get quite cold, so we don't advise that you swim in the sea during the winter, and we probably don't advise that you swim in the sea in the summer either, because it's the North Sea beside us, and yeah, it can be quite chilly. But we're well located in the centre of the UK. So to the north we have Scotland, and the capital city Edinburgh is 1.5 hours away by train, and to the south we have London, which is 2 hours 40 minutes away by most trains. We have an international airport at Newcastle, and you can connect with flights to lots of different destinations, including London, Dubai, Amsterdam, Paris, and many, many more. So a really great location within the UK. These are just one or two pictures of our campus. As you can see, we're a mixture of old and modern at Newcastle. The university's history dates back to 1834, when we started life as a medical school. And the first picture there in the photo, that's one of our oldest buildings, the Armstrong building, with the university arches in front of it. And then the picture in the bottom of the screen, that's our business school. That was built a few years ago to cater for the very high numbers of students we have who come to study with us on business-related programmes. That particular building is a 10-minute walk away from the main campus, but everything else apart from business-related courses is located on the main campus, as in that first shot there. And the other picture there is of the Into building, which is our partner that delivers English language and academic preparation courses before students enter university. So some of you may or may not be doing an Into course. Probably not, but we've just included it just to show you. And then that's a picture taken of our architecture building, which is located right in the heart of the campus in the old quadrangle. And all the buildings in that area are very old, very beautiful, and students enjoy spending time studying there or just meeting their friends. when the weather's warm. This is an aerial view of the city of Newcastle, just to give you some perspective about where everything's located. So I've put there all the different landmarks that you might need to know about, the main ones anyways. So you can see the main campus there in the top right of the photo, and that leads straight into the city centre just below it. Our business school, that's shown there, and that's opposite St James's Park football ground for anyone who's a keen football fan. Then we have our railway station, just a 10-minute walk away from the university. The Sage Gateshead that's shown there, that's an international music centre, and we have some fantastic acts from all over the world come to perform there. Different types of music, jazz, classical, opera, country and western, you name it. There's something for everybody. And then the final photos for the moment, that's just to give you a little impression of what our city centre is like. As you can see there, the top left photo, that's a really beautiful theatre, the Theatre Royal, the oldest theatre in Newcastle. Next to it, the one with the picture of the tall column rising up, that's Earl Grey Monument. And that's a common meeting place for students, meet their friends there on a weekend if they're going out and doing anything. The bottom left-hand photograph is the Granger Market, which is a very old indoor market dating back to the 1840s. Students love it because you can get lots of cheap fruit and vegetables, meat and fish. And lots of people I know, including myself, go there on a weekend to do their shopping, and you can cook quite economically with the food. And then the final photo there is of the Tyne Bridge. That's one of 7 bridges that span across the River Tyne, because as you might know, we are Newcastle upon Tyne, and the Tyne is the river that flows through. It's a really lovely bridge, and I think one of the bridges in Sydney, the Harbour Bridge, they actually got the idea for their design based on Newcastle's Tyne Bridge, so quite impressive. Then just 1 or 2 points about the quality of the university that you're coming to. We're a member of the Russell Group of universities, so that's 24 research intensive universities in the UK, and we're proud to be a member of that group. Oxford and Cambridge are a member, lots of other well-known good universities. Recently, we've been awarded a gold award in something called the TEF, which is the Teaching Excellence Framework. And that is testimony to our sort of hard work and the excellent achievements of our staff at the university. Other things you can see there, we're voted regularly as one of the top 20 universities for employers. So when you graduate from Newcastle University, you stand a good chance of getting employed. We have 2 big job fairs on campus every year, and lots of smaller ones in between times. Lots of opportunities for people to find work once they finish their bachelor's or master's programme. We have a good reputation for the support that we give our students, currently joint first in the UK. We're apparently the happiest city in the UK, and you can tell that. Look at all these lovely smiling faces sat here. We're all very, very happy to be living and working and studying in Newcastle. And cost of living is good too. We're the 3rd cheapest student city in the UK. So the north of England in particular, the costs of living are much lower than in the south of England. So costs for your accommodation, for local travel, just for going out in general, in the cafes, restaurants, bars, things are much cheaper here than in the south. So if you're spending 3 years of your life, then it's a good city to choose from that point of view, as well as many others. Then a little bit about student life. As well as encouraging you to study hard, we like to encourage you to play hard as well and have fun, because university isn't just about the qualifications that you receive. It's about trying new experiences and doing things perhaps that you've never done before back in your home country. So a big focal point for students is our Students' Union. That's a large building in the heart of campus that's run by students for students. And they organise lots of different student clubs, which we call societies. You'll see the word there. A student society is where a group of like-minded students get together and they participate in some kind of activity that they all love. So it could be anything from discussing politics to playing football to learning how to make cocktails. There's all sorts of different societies. We also have student media. Media is a very strong subject at Newcastle. We're currently ranked #1 in the UK in the Sunday Times and Times newspaper for our media programmes. And we have our own award-winning student newspaper, which is called The Courier. And if you're interested, you can get involved in writing articles for The Courier. And again, when you leave university, if you can tell a future employer that you've worked on a newspaper, then that obviously looks really good and strengthens your application. We also have a TV and a student radio station. There are lots of opportunities to do voluntary work at Newcastle University. Voluntary work is where you give up your time free of charge, so you don't get paid, but you might get involved in some local community projects. Could be working with old people, with young children, people with disabilities. There's all kinds of things you can get involved in. And again, getting that work experience, really, really good for your CV and to tell a future employer. And then those are just a few more examples of clubs and societies at the university. So there's some really funny ones there. There's one called Nuts. That's Newcastle University Theatre Society. We've got cheerleading, student brewing. That's where you get to make your own beer. There's the DJ Society. I guess that's learning to be a DJ. I have no idea. But there's lots and lots. I think there's currently over 170 different student societies at Newcastle. And it's a really important part of life. And yes, it says there, we've recently been voted first in the UK for the social life at the university and as well as in the city itself. Newcastle's a very young city. It has a great student vibe. Between our university and Northumbria University, which is another university in Newcastle, we have around 50,000 students in the city. So there's lots and lots of things going on for young people to do. Back to the university itself, we have a fantastic support and well-being service. So if you're having problems at any time during your studies, or you need to go and ask questions, you can see there's a list of the different services there. We're lucky enough today to have Henna with us from our visa team. I'll introduce you to her in a little while. And if anybody has any questions about visas at this time, Henna should be able to answer them. All first year undergraduate students receive a peer mentor. That's a student who is in their second or third year of their studies and who acts as a kind of helper, a mentor to the new first year students coming in. So before you arrive at Newcastle in September, you'll be emailed the name of your peer mentor and they'll be in touch with you when you arrive at the university, and you can ask them any questions about your course, or questions maybe just about settling in general to Newcastle and to the campus. All students, whether you're on an undergraduate programme for 3 years or a master's programme for a year, everybody gets a personal tutor. That's an academic member of staff who is in your school, in your area in which you're studying, and you usually meet up with your personal tutor two times, 3 times a semester, and they look at your progress, tell you how you're getting on, and if there's room for improvement, they'll make suggestions to you. Then on a more personal level, we have professional counsellors and therapists. So some international students who come from far away, or even just from Europe, they can experience a kind of culture shock when they first arrive in the UK, and they feel really homesick. And we have people available that you can talk to if you make an appointment in our Student Services Centre, and you can talk to someone about any problems you're having settling in, and we'll always try to help you find solutions. So, coming to the university now, and I want to talk a little bit about the sort of things surrounding what happens between now and when you arrive here in September. So, first thing is, you should accept your offer, and hopefully all of you have either already accepted your offer or are still trying to decide whether to accept Newcastle's offer or not. If you're an undergraduate student, once you receive all your decisions from the different universities, because you'll have made 5 university choices, you can then log into UCAS Track to make your firm and insurance choice. Your firm choice is the university you really want to go to, and the insurance choice is your second favourite, just in case you don't get the grades for your firm choice. For postgraduate students, if there's any deadline attached to accepting your offer, it will be stated in your offer letter that you have received from us. However, most of our programmes do not have a deadline. So look through all the communications we've sent you, and if there's a deadline, make sure you stick to it. So a lot of you will still have conditional offers at this stage. So you might want to ask, what if I miss my conditions? If I've just missed the requirements by 1 or 2 marks? Our advice would be, what if I miss my conditions? If I've just still contact the requirements by 1 or 2 marks? Still contact the university as soon as possible so that we can consider you. For undergraduates, as soon as you meet any of your conditions, you need to send us the evidence that you've met those conditions. So that will be a scanned copy of your certificate for your high school diploma or your international baccalaureate, or maybe an English language test that we've asked for. You need to email that to the email address which is in your offer letter. For postgraduate students, as soon as you meet any of your conditions, you can tell the university by uploading your documents to your application portal. So you all have an account, postgraduate students, online, in which all your documents are saved. So you need to upload any outstanding documents. And then for postgraduates only, you need to pay a minimum of £1,500 as a deposit. And that's if you're international student needing a visa, you need to pay that tuition fee deposit. So I hope that's clear. Okay. If I just, sorry, I got distracted by a message on screen, excuse me. So now we're turning to accommodation. So you have a range of options here. You can choose either university accommodation, one of our halls of residence, and we have many of those, Most of them are very close to campus, which is great, so they're just a short walk away. Not many of them you need to take transport to, although there's one or two that do. We also have managed partnership accommodation, which is not university owned, but we still have a link with you as the university and the people who are renting out the accommodation. And then finally, you might want to arrange your own private accommodation, and you can do that yourself. There's lots of agencies in Newcastle where you can rent a room from, or you might have family or friends. And I think my colleague Monica will speak a little bit about accommodation when she talks at the end of this presentation. And then there's some advice there depending on whether you're an undergraduate student or a postgraduate student. Either case, you need to be enrolled on a course for the full academic year to get our accommodation. You need to be a single student, not looking for couple or family accommodation. You need to have applied by the 30th of June, although some people I think are still applying now, and you can still apply, it's just we don't guarantee it. Only if you apply by the 30th of June do we guarantee the accommodation. For postgraduate students, again, there's a fee to pay, £500 deposit, but that will be discounted from your summer term's rent. It's just a sort of a bond for us so that we know that you're definitely coming. Okay, and I think that's all I need to say about that for the moment. Accommodation, even if you're still conditional, your offer with us is conditional, and you can still apply, but we will only allocate you a room once you become unconditional. That's a very important point to remember. Some students forget that. We usually allocate rooms between now and September, and we would ask you please to be patient at this time of year. We have a small accommodation team and we receive thousands and thousands of applications. So please be patient. If you keep ringing them, it means they have less time to actually work on allocating the accommodation. So we'd be really grateful if you could be patient, because we will guarantee you a room if you've applied by that 30th of June deadline. Do not worry, we will get to you, is the message, I think. Fine. When choosing accommodation, there's lots of things to think about. Do you want to be part of a small or a larger community? Do you want mixed sex accommodation, so boys and girls together, or do you want just single sex accommodation? Then the cost, how much budget do you have? We have a range of accommodation to suit all pockets. Do you want to be close to campus, or do you not mind being further away? And then a big decision is, do you want a room with your own bathroom, which is en suite, or are you happy just to have a wash basin in your room only? Obviously, en suite is more expensive than just having a wash basin. And then do you want it to be catered or not catered? So that means, do you want meals to be provided for you? We have one accommodation site where they provide meals, but all our other accommodation is self-catered. So that means you get to share a kitchen with other students, and it's a really nice way to make friends and be sociable as you cook together. There's a tip there about if you go to the university website and type in the word living expenses, some information will come up about how much it costs a typical student to study in Newcastle during the course of a year. For undergraduate students, it's slightly less than postgraduates. Postgraduates are with us for a full 12 months, whereas undergraduates are only with us for 9 months. So that's why there's a difference in price. But there's lots of helpful information on the website about the kind of costs that you can expect to be facing. And those are just 3 pictures of some accommodation sites. The first one there, quite a new one. I think that's the View. That's near our business school. Very nice, modern, quite posh accommodation, but it costs a bit more because it's new and quite posh. Then the second one there, taken at a distance, that's the Grand Hotel. That's right beside the front door of the university. And that's postgraduate accommodation, I believe. And then the final one is
Park Terrace.
Park Terrace. Oh yes, that used to be university offices, and they now have converted that into very nice student accommodation, and that's very close to the site. One of our most popular sites. And what you'll find is everybody wants the same accommodation, but we only have so many rooms to give out. But please don't worry, there'll be somewhere for you to live. And everywhere is nice. They just have different strengths and weaknesses, every site. Okay, and then that's just a screenshot to show you if you go onto our website and just type in the word accommodation, that brings up our accommodation pages, and that's just an example of the Grand Hotel website where you can do a 360-degree tour of the accommodation so you can see what it's like inside the rooms. And then that's just a map. If you go on again to our website and type in the word campus map, you'll be able to see all the city and the campus, and you'll be able to work out where all the accommodation is in relation to where you'll be studying in the university. Remember, everything is on the main campus at Newcastle, in the centre of the city, with the exception of the business school. And there are certain places that are really good for the business school, like the View and Liberty Plaza is another one. Okay. Now we'll move on to my least favourite subject, visa information. So first of all, that's the website there of our visa team. Most international students need a study visa, not all. Obviously, if you are a European student, I repeat, a European student, you don't need a visa. So these next couple of slides, just ignore what I'm going to say. It doesn't apply to you. Only for international students living outside of the European Union. So to get a visa to come to study with us, you need something called a CAS, which is a confirmation of acceptance of studies. And that's a number which the university will apply for on your behalf, and they will email you the CAS once you have met all the conditions of your offer. So you just wait to hear from the university by email with your CAS. And then once you get the CAS, you can apply for the visa. Just a small note to say, anybody who is studying on the postgraduate master's programme in the business school, that's a dual award, where you study part of the time in Newcastle and part of the time in Groningen in the Netherlands, you need to arrange a visa for the first study destination. So some courses start in Newcastle, some start in Groningen. Make sure you apply for the right visa for the first place where you're going to be. And then in the first semester, the university will give you help to apply for the second visa that you will need for the other country. I hope that's clear. Okay, and then just a step-by-step really. So for undergraduate students, you accept your offer as your firm choice on UCAS track. Make it unconditional by submitting all the documents required. Receive your CAS and an email from us, and then you'll apply for your visa. With postgrads, you accept your offer, make it unconditional by sending us in all the documents, pay your tuition fee deposit that we ask for in the offer letter, and receive your CAS again in an email from us. Then you apply for your Tier 4 visa, and remember this is just international students, not European Union students. You're lucky you don't have to do anything. And when you get your visa, you have to confirm your biometric residence permit collection point. So there are 3 places in Newcastle where you pick up this BRP, biometric residence permit collection point. And you confirm which location you want to pick it up from, you pay your visa application fee, and then you book your appointment to have the visa interview. You then attend the interview at the application centre, you await the decision of your visa, and when it's ready, hopefully you get it first time, you'll be given a sticker in your passport and a decision letter. This grants you 30 days leave to enter the UK, so you must enter within that 30-day period. You get ready to fly. On arrival, you collect your BRP from the post office where you have previously said you want to collect it, and then you come and you register on campus as a student at Newcastle University. Let's leave that up for a second while you absorb all of that. Okay. So I hope that's clear, but we can come back to visas in the questions at the end of this. So now I'd like to pass you on to my colleague Alex Morgan, who's our Student Integration Officer, who's just going to say a few words about your preparation to come to Newcastle.
Thank you, Wendy. Yes, so the next few slides are going to be information that will help you prepare for your arrival in Newcastle, and they're kind of practical steps that will help you with that process. So when you travel to the UK, we offer a meet and greet service at Newcastle Airport, but we would advise, because the queues for to come through the airport can be pretty long, it's really important to have these documents handy in your hand luggage. So obviously you need your passport in order to travel, your visa decision letter, and you need to also bring evidence of the funds that you have to study at Newcastle. Evidence of your accommodation, so that will be the email or letter you get about your accommodation, and also the CAS letter, which Wendy's talked about previously. Ideally, if you have had to have tuberculosis testing, if you could have that with you as well, and any prescription drugs or medical evidence or certificates that you need to have with you. And if you bring prescription drugs with you, you also need to bring a supporting letter. Keeping these in your hand luggage will just mean that that process of going through immigration should go smoothly. In terms of medical services while you're in the UK, any students who are studying here for more than 6 months are entitled to any treatment that you need on the NHS, which is our National Health Service. For students, there is also a fee that you will need to pay for this service. It's called the Immigration Health Surcharge, and it's compulsory for any Tier 4 international students. It's free for students from the EU, but you will need to, if you need to pay the surcharge, then this is paid fully in advance while you're making your visa application. What you will need to do, however, when you get to the UK is to register with a doctor. They're generally known as general practitioners, and you can't register with them before you arrive, and you will need to do that in person, and that allows you to then have access to the services. And in the first instance, for any treatment, you would go to your GP or doctor.
Great.
In terms of money, and this is something that students are always really concerned about, just making sure they have the right amount of money with them when they arrive, we would recommend that you have between £300 and £400 with you for arrival. Not that we think that you'll need to spend all of that in the first few days, but that just is a sort of a security blanket for you in case you had any emergencies. Wendy mentioned before that expenses are slightly different for undergraduate students and postgrad students, and the link that you could go to get more information about cost of living. But there's a rough indication of how much we think it will cost you for your living expenses in the UK. So that doesn't involve travel, but that involves your accommodation and money for food, any books that you might need, and some living expenses like activities that you might want to go and do. I am there at the airport to meet students during International Welcome and have seen lots of students arrive without warm clothing. Newcastle, we're having lovely weather at the moment, and you would think that the weather would be lovely when you arrive in September, but you can't rely on that. So please bring some warm clothing with you. It could be a bit of adjustment for some of you coming from nice warm climates. It tends to be quite windy in Newcastle, so you definitely want to have something nice and warm, at least a jumper or a jacket to help you in the first few days. We do have a fantastic shopping scene in Newcastle, as it says on the presentation, so don't worry about having too many items of warm clothing. You can get plenty of them here. Okay, so this is a checklist, just things to tick off to make sure that you're ready before you set off to Newcastle. Obviously, Wendy has talked about accommodation and visa, and they're obviously very important things, probably the most important things to have sorted out before you leave. You will get lots of letters about how to register, lots of emails, sorry, and you can do part of the registration process before you arrive in Newcastle. So look out for those emails and make sure that you have followed the instructions so you're as ready as you can be when you arrive here. Obviously, booking things like flights and tickets, the sooner that you can do that, probably the best price that you can get. And making sure that you know how much luggage you can bring with you. Some airlines have a limited capacity in terms of what you can bring, so make sure that you are within that so that you're not charged extra at the airport. As I've mentioned, my team offer an airport pickup, and that is a free service, but you do need to book onto that, and you can do that on the pre-arrival section of our website. Make sure that you know how to get to your accommodation, just in case you arrive outside of the meet and greet pickup service at the airport, and make sure that you have emergency contact details and any necessary documentation. Okay, and then once you arrive in the UK, it might seem obvious, but lots of students get so caught up in the excitement of getting here that they don't contact their family to tell them they've arrived safely. Your family are bound to be worried, so I think that's a really key thing to do. Wendy's already mentioned about the BRP, and you obviously need to collect that in order to be able to complete your registration. Students are always very concerned about how they will get their smart card and when they will get that. And you need to complete your registration on campus in order to be given that. Once those things have taken place, you're in a good position to be able to open a UK bank account, which you will need for things like accommodation payments and tuition fees. Obviously, you may have needed to pay a tuition fee deposit in advance, and then you will need to pay the rest of your fees once you arrive. The week prior to the start of Freshers Week, we have International Welcome, and they are special information sessions and activities to help you settle in and to get to know the campus and the university before the rest of the students arrive. Any students who have not got English as a first language would need to take the university English language assessment. That is just to see whether you need any additional support or help with English when you're here, and it's a really important part of international welcome to take that as soon as possible. Certain students will need to register with the police, but obviously that is only if that's specified on your visa. We advise that everyone registers with a doctor as soon as possible. Don't wait until you're ill. It's much easier for you if you've registered as soon as you get there, and then you know exactly where to go and how to access services. There'll be lots of things going on. International Welcome has their own induction programme, but then you'll have a school induction as well. And it's really important that you attend all of these sessions to give you a full understanding of how the university works, and just to help you settle in. And then Wendy's mentioned previously that there is Freshers Week, which is a programme of activities, some daytime and some nighttime. Some will have a cost attached and some of them are free, that really help you to meet people. Students from the UK will be taking part in these as well. And it's a great period of time to meet friends and learn a bit more about Newcastle. It's a week when everyone is new, so it's the perfect time to walk up to people, be maybe a bit braver than you would normally be, speak to people and make friends. And then these are dates that you probably want to make a note of. Obviously, they're all available on the website. These are the dates of our terms. So they are the teaching weeks. So some of the postgraduate teaching time is outside of that. For example, for the dissertation, which is written over the summer. They give you ideas of when you would be able to book flights home. Ideally, it's best to do it outside of term dates. And then some really important dates to remember. So the airport meet and greet service, which I've mentioned, you can actually book for that now. As soon as you have your flights and you know your accommodation, I would advise that you book for that service. It's not a limited service, so it won't run out, but it helps us in terms of planning if we know when you're going to be arriving. Arrival is best to come from the 19th of September. Some students may want to come earlier than that, but you won't actually be able to be in university accommodation until that point in time. So you could come earlier and stay in other accommodation. And welcome and registration will be taking place across that period of time. International welcome will be the welcome events and induction sessions, which tell you about services in the university and the city. And then Freshers Week, which is really vibrant, lovely social programme of activities, which is the week after International Welcome. And then the 25th of September, we really recommend that students don't arrive any later than that, because that is when you will start to get school induction programmes, which will tell you about your course, and then classes will start very shortly after that.
Okay, thank you very much, Alex. That was great. I'd now like to hand over to Monica Nielsen, who's a former student of ours from Poland, and she's just going to share with you some of her top tips for coming to Newcastle.
Hi everyone. So as Wendy mentioned, I'm from Poland, and I did a course in international marketing last year at Newcastle University. And prior to the start of my course, I had never been to Newcastle, just as many of you probably, so I shared a lot of your worries. So here are just a few of my top tips of what to take care of when you arrive. So first and foremost, sort out your accommodation. If you're staying in university accommodation, that's all great. That will be sorted for you, and you just need to show up basically. But if you're staying in a private accommodation, or some of you might not even have accommodation when you arrive and want to find it only after you arrive, so then it's important to make sure that you book yourself a hotel or Airbnb to have a place to stay while you're looking. And another point is to have fun and take part in a lot of Welcome Week activities. And they're there for you to enjoy yourself, to meet some people, and to explore Newcastle and areas around it. And as Alex mentioned, setting up a bank account is also important. And to set up a bank account in the UK, you need to have your passport and also confirmation of accommodation. So if you're staying in university accommodation, then Student Services in Kingsgate will issue a letter for you saying that they confirm that you're staying in this accommodation that you will have to take to a bank with you. And also something that has been mentioned before, so registering with a GP practice. And my top tip for you is that there's a certificate called HC2 certificate that basically exempts you from paying for prescriptions and eye checks as well as dental care. And if you are a student here in the UK and you don't have any sources of income, you don't have a scholarship or you don't work, you may be eligible for that. So it is important to check it because it might save you a lot of money. And last is basically to explore the city in the first few weeks that you're here before you get snowed under with university work, which might happen quite quickly after the start of your course. So just enjoy yourself in the first few weeks and take time to go around the city, go to the coast and see what's out there. Thank you.
Okay, Monica, thank you very much indeed. Okay, so this is our final slide now, and then we'll start trying to answer some of your questions. There's been lots of questions received, which is great. I don't think we're going to have time to get through all of them. So you might want to take a look at this slide because at the university we have someone who handles all the questions from students from different parts of the world. So if you identify which region of the world you're from according to this slide and take a note of the mailbox that's mentioned there, then we'll do our best to answer questions there, although we'll try and get as many answered now as we can. It will also be possible to get a copy of this presentation sent to you. At latest, we'll do that at the start of next week. So don't worry, this information will be available afterwards. But we've had some really good questions come in. So I'll just start going through a few of them. And at this point, I'm going to include some more of my colleagues in the screen who've been sitting here patiently waiting for us to go through. On this side where I'm pointing, oh, that's the other side. No, that's the right side. I have Sarah from our undergraduate admissions team. So if you're an undergraduate student coming to do a bachelor's and you have specific questions about your offer letter, anything to do with undergraduate admissions, Sarah's your woman. She's here to answer any questions you might have. Next to Sarah is Henna from our visa team. So again, any questions at all about CASs, about visa interviews, anything like that, please send them in. We're waiting for your questions. Then on the other side, we have Amanda from our postgraduate admissions team. She's happy to help any of our future postgraduate students, and that can be on a taught program, a research program, a PhD. She'll try and help you. And then we have Lisa, who's just out of shot. Oh, there she is. Lisa is from our accommodation team, and she'll be very happy to answer any questions you have now about accommodation. And I've got quite a lot of questions here, so I'm going to start going through the ones that I think will be of most interest to a larger majority of students. One question about visas. When we get the CAS, when do we get the CAS? We need to apply for our student visa. That's from Neo Swan. I think that is as soon as you get your CAS, you need to then apply for your visa.
That's right, yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
Does the CAS have a...
Yeah, the CAS is normally valid for 6 months, but that shouldn't really be a problem at this time of the year, really. So if they get a CAS now, from this month onwards, they can just make an application. There's no time restrictions, as it were, at this point in time.
Okay. Somebody's asking, do they need to apply for a visa? Well, yes, you do. If you're from a country that insists that you have a visa to come and study with us, then yes, you do need to apply. That's for Zul Maidi. I hope that helps. Yes, look into it. You'll need to get a visa. Okay, let's have also look. An undergraduate student, Sarah, is asking, do they need to pay any tuition fees before they arrive?
You don't need to pay any tuition fees before you get here. If you want to, you can pay some as part of the registration process, and you can start that before you arrive in Newcastle. We will send an email to all successful students towards the end of August, which will tell you how to log into your Newcastle University email account. And when you do that, you'll find a message to tell you about how to register online. So as part of that process, you can pay some or all of your tuition fees, or you can wait until you arrive at the university and you can pay them when you get here.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. A question now for Lisa about accommodation. If we don't want the room we are given because it doesn't meet our preferences, will we lose the fee that we've paid, Lisa?
It will depend. There will be an administration charge added. It will depend on which type of accommodation you've been offered, whether it's in your first 3 choices, preferences, or your second 3. It's £250 deducted if it's in your first 3 preferences, or £100 if it's in your 4th to 6th preference. But you may want to contact us. There may be other things that we can do. We do have a Facebook swap page, although it's mainly used by undergraduates. There may be some opportunity of doing swaps for other accommodation that's available. So do contact us and see if there's anything we can help beforehand. We might be able to change the offer or put you in touch with someone who might have something that's more suitable for you.
Okay. Someone else asking, what are my chances of getting university accommodation if I've applied after the 30th of June?
In most instances, you will be offered accommodation. We always deal with the applicants that have been covered by the accommodation guarantee, but we will always try and offer accommodation to students who have applied outside that. And in most instances, we're able to offer you accommodation.
Thank you very much, Lisa. I've had a few questions asking, European students asking what documents they need to carry with them when they arrive in Newcastle. Basically, I would recommend, obviously, you need your passport and you just need a copy of your offer letter from the university. And if you've already arranged a place to stay, I would have copies of any accommodation contract in your hand luggage. But other than that, I don't think there's anything else.
And that's more just for your own reference.
Yeah, absolutely. Some people are asking about banks. Can we recommend any banks? We're unable to make recommendations to you for opening an account. However, what we can say is that Santander, they have a branch within our Students' Union on the campus. So that's quite an easy bank perhaps to think about opening an account with, and they have quite good deals for students. But there's also Barclays, there's, what else have we got?
Lloyds, TSB.
TSB.
Halifax, there's numbers.
Yeah, there's lots of different banks, so you might want to shop around, maybe do a little bit of research on the internet. But Santander is a very popular student bank and it is on the campus. Someone is asking whether the UELA is compulsory. That's the University English Language Assessment. It is compulsory for all international students to sit this assessment if they don't already have a very high IELTS score. Say like if they have over 7, they don't need to sit it. Or if they're from a country which is on our list of countries where we don't require you to take it. My suggestion there would be going onto the university website, typing in English language test.
Just UELA.
UELA, and you'll be able to see whether or not you're a national of one of the countries that we don't insist that you take it. Henna, I think one for you. Where do I get my biometric residence permit? It says that if I applied for the visa outside the UK, that I can collect it once I'm in the UK, but where specifically? We've actually covered that in the presentation, but maybe if you
Yeah,
could...
I'll elaborate on that. So as part of your visa application, what you'll do is you have a selection of 3 post offices that you need to select from. The main post office is probably about 2 minutes from the university, and it's called Barrasbridge. And if you select Barrasbridge as the post office that you would like to collect your BRP card from, then you would be collecting from that particular post office. But then there are 2 other post offices as well that you can go to, depending, I guess, on where your accommodation is. But all 3 post offices are fairly close to the city centre, so it shouldn't be too much of a problem to get to the post offices.
Thank you. Some more questions about accommodation. People very anxious. When am I going to know what accommodation I'm going to get? And I guess it's just reiterating what we said in the presentation, Lisa.
Yeah, we're hoping to send our offers out, this month. But where, it will be dependent, but we will get the offers out for them not to panic. That accommodation offers will go hopefully this month. If not, it will be the beginning of August. And you'll receive an email advising you of the accommodation either advising you to go online to find out what accommodation's being offered, or advising you if you've got one of the managed partnerships, what you need to do to accept the offer of accommodation.
Thank you, Lisa. We've got a few questions asking, what does registration actually mean? Registration is when you present yourself at the university and you show us all your documents, we take your photograph and you get a card like this. Somebody was asking, will I get a student ID card? Well, yes, you will. You'll get one of these. We call it a smart card or a student ID card. Every student will get one. As long as they have registered and paid at least part of their fees. You can choose to pay the fees in 2 instalments, 50% in September by the end of the registration period and 50% by the end of January. If you pay the fees in full, you get a very small discount. We're very generous at Newcastle. You get 2% discount off your fees if you pay the fees in full in September. Amanda, I had one for you. Now I've lost it. I've got a conditional offer for a postgraduate course. Does a contract between me and the university start as soon as I accept the conditional offer? What happens if I don't meet those conditions in time?
Right, so if you don't meet your conditions, I would say still send in all of your documents, because we need to check whether we may still be able to accept you if you don't quite meet the condition we've set. If we aren't able to accept you, then we would then withdraw the offer. So you would be then unsuccessful and wouldn't be able to continue with the registration onto the programme.
Okay, many thanks. Somebody's asking if the university provides self-defence classes. Does anyone know the answer to that?
There might be something at the sports centre. There might be classes that they do for self-defence, but if not, there'll probably be a local gym or somewhere you can look up that will provide. A lot of local groups will do some kind of course.
Do some sort of self-defence.
It may be worth asking the welfare officer at the student union as well.
Right.
If I can add on to that, do not be worried, because Newcastle is one of the safest cities in the UK, and I think all the students here can vouch for that. So you shouldn't really be worried, because it's a very compact city. It's very small. You can walk everywhere, and even in the night there are a lot of people in the streets, because people do like to go out here, and there's never really anything to be concerned about. So don't worry, it is really safe in here.
An interesting question. Are there any postgraduate specific forms of support, like professional development, etc.?
There are, within the schools, there are lots of support for students, and there will be professional support available within each school. So you need to speak to your school office once you register and they'll be able to provide you with things like that.
Great. Lots of concerns about deadlines for accepting offers generally. Would either of you like to say anything? There aren't really deadlines as such, are there? You just need to make sure you have enough time to then apply for your visa if you're an international student.
Well, I can comment for the undergraduate side. When you log into UCAS Track to check the status of your application, you would be able to see the deadline you have there for accepting your offer as firm or insurance. And I think by now, most people would have already done that. It's only if you've applied quite late, perhaps in the last month or two, that you would still have time left to make your choices. And I think the final deadline is coming up very soon, later this month. In terms of sending us copies of your certificates to show that you've met the conditions of your offer, there's usually a deadline within the conditions of your offer, and you can see that on UCAS Track as well. But generally we say you should get that to us as soon as possible, especially if you need to apply for a visa, because the earlier we can confirm your place, the earlier we can send out the email with your CAS, and then you can get on with your visa application and arrive in time to start.
There will be deadlines for accommodation, but that's detailed on the offer of accommodation they receive. But we would never cancel an offer of accommodation without chasing the student to find out if they actually want it or they've just missed the deadline by accident.
For postgraduate taught or research, if there are any deadlines that you have to accept your offer by, or deadlines that you have to make a deposit payment by, that will be specified on your offer letter, but that's only for a very small number of courses. The majority of students just need to accept as soon as they possibly can, and as Wendy said, to enable you to get your CAS and get your visa in time to arrive by the 25th of September.
Thanks, Amanda. Quite a few questions coming in about ability to work as an international student. Henna, what are the current rules about working?
Yeah, so anyone who will be coming over on a Tier 4 visa, so you'll be applying for a Tier 4 visa, so typically you'll be doing a longer term course, then you will normally be allowed to work 20 hours during term time, but during the holiday, during the vacation time, so Christmas holidays, Easter holidays, summer holidays, you will be allowed to work full time. Some of you may not be coming over on a Tier 4 visa, so if you're coming over as an exchange student just for one semester, you will normally come over on what we call a short-term study visa. Then unfortunately you can't work at all on that visa, but Tier 4 visa, general rule of thumb is 20 hours a week and full-time during vacation time.
And European students can work as much or as little as they like. On the subject of work, very briefly, we do have something called jobs on campus. If you were asking about that, can you get a job working in a cafe or a restaurant or in the library on campus, or maybe even one of our departments? And yes, the answer is the university is encouraged to take students to get them some part-time work experience. And if you're not successful with jobs on campus, there are other possibilities within the city of Newcastle itself. And we have a very, very good department in the university called the Careers Service, and they can advise and help in relation to jobs during your studies, and then obviously once you graduate and you want a proper serious graduate job, they can help and advise you on that. And Monica, have you got any tips about when you should engage with the Career Service to get the best out of them?
Yes, give yourself, a month or two to settle in. But if you want to have work at university or elsewhere in the city, I encourage you to first go to Career Service, because as Wendy said, it is an awards-winning career service and they're excellent. And every day during the week, there are drop-in hours. It's a few hours during the day where you can just go in there without making a prior appointment, and they can help you with your CV or with cover letters that you need to write to apply for jobs. And you get a personal advisor that goes through them with you, and that really helps you with your application. So your CV is up to UK standard, and also you have a ready cover letter, and then you can start applying for jobs. Also, during the welcome weeks or short afterwards, there will be a sort of a jobs fair at university. I remember when I was starting, it was at our students' union. Different part-time employers came to the campus to advertise jobs for students. A lot of them were works in restaurants or other part-time jobs around the city. So there will be some opportunities advertised for you. But if you want to look for work independently, I think you should start maybe, after 1 or 2 months that you're here and you already know what's what, and then first go to career service and then start looking for a job.
Great, thank you, Monica. Okay, I think we're over time now, and I think we probably need to leave it there for today. We're running the same presentation with some of the same people tomorrow at 1 o'clock British summertime, standard time, 1 p.m. And again on Friday at 9 o'clock in the morning. So if you want to listen to the presentation again, or you want to come back with more questions, then please look at the emails that have been sent to you, and you could register again tomorrow. But for today, I'd like to thank my colleagues all very much for participating in this. You've sent in some really good questions. Thank you for your time. I hope it's been useful to you all, and we'll either see you tomorrow or Friday, or latest, hopefully in Newcastle in September. We'll look out for you, and yes, we wish you all the best between now and then. Thank you very much for coming online today and listening to us. Thanks.